Everybody good? Yep. Mind you saying my name to start off, sir?
Yes, Kees, D-A-K-K-E-E-S.
And your title?
U.S. Attorney, Western District.
Okay. Can you just kind of give us an overview? How are you feeling after today's probation over a sentence of incarceration?
Actually, I feel very confident on today's sentence. I know it's probation, but today's sentence sent a message. It sent a message for those defendants out there, and we know that there are multiple defendants out there regarding bribes. We know that they're out there. This sent a message to them that, hey, if you have information, it's in your best interest to come to law enforcement immediately and be truthful, be honest, and cooperate. Mr. Neal did that. He did that over 2 years ago, and he was rewarded for it here today. And I think that's justice. I think that's justice.
Can you go into a little on what you said in your arguments about quite what Mr. Neal did to help your case?
Well, number one, Mr. Neal reached out to the government first. We did not reach out to him. He reached out to us. He went and got counsel, Shane Wilkinson. They came to our office immediately. He was truthful and honest with everything. He did everything that we asked. He testified at every aspect, every step of the way, whether that was a grand jury, whether that was in certain discovery hearings, whether that was at trial. He testified. He gave us information about other open investigations right now. So, having done everything over a wide range of time and to his own detriment, he didn't do this secretly. He didn't do this under seal. He did this publicly, and for that he was rewarded. And that is justice.
Talk a little bit about the conundrum that you and the judge and Shane Wilkinson were talking about.
So my conversation with the judge was that this was a conundrum because when you think of a prosecutor, you think of somebody that's going to go in and argue for the greatest sentence. That I didn't believe was justice here today, and here's the reason why. Again, with an 18-and-a-half-year sentence that he gave John Woods last week, that is deterrence. I think it's going to be quite a while before somebody takes a bribe down in Little Rock again. Unfortunately, though, we already know that many bribes have already been taken. The crimes have already been committed, and there are defendants out there. We know most of them, but there's some that we don't. If the judge were to give a harsh sentence to Micah Neal, it would send a message, hey, don't come to the government. Don't cooperate with the government. Take your chances. So with this sentence, we think it sent a message that, hey, it's in your best interest to come to the government as quickly as possible and cooperate. And so that was the conundrum. That was the conundrum, is that a great sentence may not really do justice in the long run. It may feel good today, but it may not do justice in the long run. And that's what we were looking at.
Are you concerned that this sentence may send a message to citizens of Arkansas that politicians or state lawmakers can do this and just get a slap on the wrist?
I hope it does not. I hope it does not. I think anyone that has followed this case for this long and has even listened to the judge over these past 2 weeks, he had scathing remarks for John Woods. He had scathing remarks for Randall Shelton. He even had some remarks for Dr. Paris that he waited to the 11th hour to plead. He had some very harsh remarks for Micah Neal today. What this showed is that justice is tempered with mercy. And when you look at just what is the mercy was that he began immediately. The court didn't ask him to do all these things. The government didn't ask him to do this. He came by his own grace to come here and to help us out. So, could somebody see this as, hey, he's being treated, he's a politician, therefore, he's getting off scot-free? He's not getting off scot-free. He's got to pay $200,000 in 3 years. That's not scot-free. So, it's easy to do that. Look over the whole case. Look over the whole 2 years, and you'll have a different view of this.
The judge was eager to try to place Mr. Neal in amongst the four in sort of an order. He ordered everybody in sort of the top to the bottom type thing. Talk about that process and how he used it to arrive at where he did with Neal.
Well, he was looking at several things. Number one, culpability, and clearly, Micah Neal did wrong. He said that from the very beginning. He did wrong, and he is a public official, or was a public official. Under our system of government, that carries with it severe consequences, and no one doubted that. No one tried to argue that. But he also looked at, of the four, who was the quickest to admit their culpability, who was the quickest to be remorseful. He took that into consideration. And I think what the judge did, in fact, I know what the judge did, he took all those factors, who's the most culpable, who's the most remorseful, accepted his responsibility, and then placed their sentences in that order. And of course, Micah Neal came out with the lightest sentence. That's where he fell in the judge's equation.
Do you think he could have ended up in the hypothetical with a longer sentence if the judge would have gone a little higher on the 3 years for Dr. Paris yesterday?
I don't want to speculate on what the judge was thinking. There is no doubt in my mind that this judge listened to a month's worth of evidence, listened to these 4 sentencing hearings, and really picked out the evidence that he needed to see, that he needed to hear in order to arrive to these. So I don't think these were, by no means were these sentences arbitrary. I think they were carefully thought out, carefully articulated. So I don't want to speculate on what could have happened.
So you talked about what he's done, Mr. Neal's done in the past for you guys. Do you anticipate still talking with him as you guys look in those other investigations that you've been mentioning?
That is yes, we anticipate that. Yes.
You mentioned in your argument that giving a harsh sentence would make your job harder, the U.S. Attorney's job harder. Can you elaborate that on what a harsh sentence message would have sent?
Well, absolutely. So let's look at Dr. Paris. Okay, Dr. Paris accepted responsibility. He pled guilty, but he did it at the 11th hour. He did it on a Wednesday with his trial starting that next Monday. Did that help the government? Yes. But how much did it help the government? It didn't help as much as Micah Neal did by pleading, 20 months ago. So what we want to do is send a message that if the judge gave a sentence that was equivalent to Dr. Paris's, then all these potential defendants out there could very easily say, hey, let's wait. Let's see what the government's evidence is. Let's go through the motions. Let's go through all these motions, hearings, and everything. And then at the 11th hour, if we think it's in our best interest, we'll plead guilty. That doesn't help my office. What helps my office is those people that say, I want to come right now. I want to come right now. I want to admit my guilt. I want to cooperate with the government as soon as possible. So that's what my statement was. For defendants that are out there, and we know there's plenty that are out there, we want them to be like Micah Neal and less like Dr. Paris. Nothing on Dr. Paris. He had an absolute right to do what he did. But as far as helping the government, Micah Neal by far helped the government more.
You mentioned, and a lot of people mentioned, that Mr. Neal had gone out and seeked out people to apologize
Absolutely.
For what he did. You even mentioned that you had many people reach out to you. Can you kind of touch on what you said at the end?
Yes. Be honest with you, I've never seen anything like that before. It's not uncommon for someone preparing for a sentencing hearing for a defendant to go out and say, I'm sorry to people, to kind of butter people up to come in and say good things about them during sentencing. We received information from day one. We received information from day one that he was apologizing to the people that he represented, that he was apologizing to total strangers that were walking into Neal's Cafe. Again, one of the many factors that the judge has to consider is acceptance of responsibility and remorse. And honestly, I can't think of any greater sign of acceptance of responsibility than to apologize a year and a half before your sentencing to total strangers. And so, as a prosecutor, it is my job to get all the facts in front of the judge, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the judge needed to know that in order to give a just sentence.
Last question.
From your point of view, I mean, I know y'all are asking a lot from a judge who had to look at all the facts, but was it a shock to you as much as it was to a lot of people that he gave both the 5K and probation?
It wasn't a shock to us. We knew, having looked at the guidelines, having looked at the facts, having, listened carefully to the judge's rationale with the other 3 defendants, we knew probation was a possibility. We knew probation was a possibility, and we trust this judge. I mean, this judge does not come up with just arbitrary sentences. He's very articulate, very thoughtful, and we knew as long as the judge has all the information in front of him, we're going to get a reasonable sentence, and that's what we think happened here today.
Anything else to thank, Pastor?
I think we're good. Thank you.